My name is Scott. I live in Burlington, North Carolina. I am 45 years old and I have been diagnosed with familial chylomicronemia syndrome. I hope my story helps. I was started having health issues around when I was 10. We were at an event that was giving free cholesterol screenings, and my cholesterol was high. So we knew that, but nothing out of the ordinary high. So just and then I progressed through college, and that's when I really started having issues. And it was my general practitioner kind of found it through some blood work, but was like, I really don't know what's going on. You're probably diabetic and all this other kind of stuff that was kind of the catchphrases of the time. So most of the time when you spin regular blood, that it separates. But for me, just leaving it sitting on the table, it separates on its own. And so I went and got on a bunch of medication, and it wasn't helping at all. Just kind of going through not knowing what was happening and not feeling good. The symptoms were my blood work was abnormal, but it wasn't like crazy high, but it was definitely out of the normal range into the high range. And then in college, I started seeing these what's called eruptive xanthomas, which is a skin lesion, I guess is the right way to say it, that the fat in your blood starts coming out of your skin. And the best way I know how to describe it is it looks like a whitehead zit. And where it comes out on me is behind my elbows, behind my knees, and um, on my back. And so I was just like, what is this? What in the world is this? And so I thought I tried to pop them like you do a whitehead. I had to get rid of them. I was in college, and I couldn't be walking around with all that. And so uh, I went to many doctors trying to figure out what was going on, trying to get a degree, and it was very frustrating. And that's when I also took a mental health dip. My depression, and I never kind of had depression, but that's when depression started moving in, and just the not knowing and being treated like a guinea pig really took a toll on me. I did graduate college, and I do have a degree, and so got through that. As I started getting older, I continued to have health issues and kept going to doctors and spinning wheels. And about this time, I started having pancreatitis flare ups because of my triglycerides were so high. Uh, Traditional triglycerides, doctors tell you that they want your numbers to be under 150. My triglycerides at points have been as high as 24,000. Um, so that is when the xanthomas and the fat was coming out of my skin the worst. The pancreatitis was outrageous, and your pancreas just inflamed. Then that requires me to be in the hospital about 2 weeks in intensive care, and the therapy that they give me requires my sugar to be checked every 30 minutes. So during that 2 weeks time, I have my blood sugar checked every 30 minutes, day, night, every 30 minutes. They come in and prick my finger. So when I'm done in 2 weeks and get to come home, my fingers are purple, um, and just are sore it's unreal. And I'm like, can't y'all find any other place to test my blood sugar? It's terrible. Which also causes me to go into another slump, as I know that as I'm laying in the hospital for 2 weeks and having my sugar, it's just traumatic for my family. I can't tell you how many times my children have gone to bed and I've tucked them into bed, and then in the morning, daddy's not home because I had to go to the hospital through the night. Um, one, and it was traumatic, and going back to the mental health, me laying in the hospital knowing that work isn't getting done, that I am not home helping my wife take care of my kids, it just sends it into another spiral. So let me go back to how I was, talk about more about how I was diagnosed. I knew that something was wrong, that going into hospital every 8 weeks with pancreatitis was not normal, was not the way things were supposed to be happening. And so, and I knew that my triglycerides being that high, 8, 10,000, 24,000 was not normal. So I got on the internet, and through the internet and just searching things such as high triglycerides, or actually extremely high triglycerides, pancreatitis due to triglycerides, um, doing those type of searches, I found um, FCS. And I gathered all the research that I had done myself on the internet, and took it to my doctor, my endocrinologist, and said, I think this might be why I'm the way I am, and the issues that I'm having is due to FCS. And after doing her research on and understanding the technical terms, she finally came back and said, I think you might be onto something. So we did some additional testing. My triglycerides are still extremely high, um, but through the internet is not always bad. And through the internet, I came to the conclusion and brought it to my doctor, which lifted a huge burden off of me. It gave us a name to call what was going on inside of me. That it wasn't totally my fault for not being compliant with the diet that I'm supposed to be on. That there was something really different about me. And we have come to the conclusion and diagnosed about 18 months ago. So I went almost 23 years um, without knowing why my health was the way it was, and kind of spinning wheels. And 18 months ago, I was officially diagnosed. So that was a burden that was lifted. So my treatment plan is, again, not traditional, outside of the box. When I was in the intensive care in the hospital, they give me large doses of insulin. A side effect of insulin is it brings down your triglycerides very quickly. So in one IV, they give large doses of insulin, and then the other arm is a sugar water to make sure that my sugar doesn't bottom out. And again, every half hour finger sticks to test my sugar so that's a lot of poking and prodding that goes on. So after not after probably the 12th or 15th time that I was in the hospital like this, I went to my doctor, my endocrinologist, and said, look, I don't understand why I have to be reactive with this pancreatitis? Why can't we be more proactive? Why can't I purchase a IV pole? I've got a nurse that's a friend. She's already said that she would come and put the IV in, and then I can give insulin through injections, like in my stomach, and she'll monitor me. And the doctor was like, no, 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 don't do anything like that at home. She's like, let us figure out a way that we can do that in the office. I said, okay, that's fine. So I called and we set it up, and they got an IV pole, and this is untraditional. This is not something that, traditional way of treating. But again, I came to her and said, I don't understand why we have to be in the hospital to get this. So advocating for yourself is critical in any disease or any issue. You got to speak up for yourself. But so I went into her office every 2 weeks and received what I call an infusion. I don't know if that's the real technical term for it. Infusion of insulin and sugar water, which brought down my triglycerides 10% every time. And I sat there for about 6 hours and let that insulin and sugar water take effect. And so I was doing that every 2 weeks. Now, the real game changer for me in FCS, and I didn't realize this until, and I always said, you need to be on a low-fat diet. You need to be on a low-fat diet. Okay, well, whatever. And in April, my wife and I went to a conference in St. Louis, and that changed our life. And here's why. There was a gentleman there by the name of Fred, who was 75 years old. And my wife and I had already come to the conclusion that if I keep down this route, I'm just not going to ever be old. And we had come to that realization and accepted that. But after meeting Fred at this conference, we're like, oh wow, you can have FCS and you can grow old with this thing. I know 75 isn't old really, but in our minds, hey, there's lots of years left. And so we recommitted ourselves to ensuring that I am compliant with my diet. What that entails is I am allowed 10 grams of fat that I can eat in my diet every day. So what does that, as an example, 1 tablespoon of ranch salad dressing has 8 grams of fat. So if I eat a tablespoon of ranch, I am almost at my daily limit of what I can eat fat-wise. So that has been a game changer when I am very compliant with that, as close as I can be. My triglycerides have come down. They're still crazy high. They still run about 1,000, something like that. But that is has been a game changer for me, and to be strict on that diet of what I eat. It's hard. It's difficult. And you also got to be creative at the same time. Eat a lot of egg whites. Eat a lot of fresh vegetables, steamed vegetables. I never thought that I would ever enjoy a salad as much as I enjoy a salad. With fat-free dressing. I never thought I would be a rat. I'm from North Carolina, and my favorite food group is pig. I love sausage. I love bacon, ham. Oh man, it's making my mouth water just talking about it. So mayonnaise, Duke's mayonnaise, cheese, butter, biscuits, gravy. Oh, I love it all. Oh man, it's great. So that has been a game changer in my treatment, is that I cold turkey quit all of that stuff. Now, did my body go through a grieving stage? Do I still have cravings that of pizza? Yes, I sure do. But I have to get creative on how I can fulfill those cravings and be okay. And we've got very creative with our food choice, my food choices. With the daily management of this, I've had to make some drastic changes. I don't know how I ever held down a traditional 9 to 5, 8 to 5 job with being in the hospital for 2 weeks every 8 weeks or so. I had jobs that were very very flexible, um, and so I could manage it. Um, but it became a point where it was just too much to try to ask my employer to um, have off those times, and they needed me there. And I was in management, sales management, and so I left the corporate world and started my own business, handyman business, property management. My two sons work for me. My oldest son and my youngest son work for me. So that's been a huge daily difference, which allows me to have flexibility in my own schedule of to go to doctor's appointments, to go and you know do things, go to conferences, and speak on behalf of the FCS community. I have that flexibility, and but it's also an expense. It's very expensive to run your own business. I had great health insurance. Now I have to pay for it, not a benefit. I don't have health insurance, and it's very expensive with a rare disease uh, to have insurance, health insurance, um, that will cover the things that I need covered, and that is a almost a job within itself to try and talk insurance companies, get letters from my doctors as to why I need to have this medication or need to do this type of therapy. And it it was um, the daily struggle of having a rare disease is taxing on you. It's taxing on your mental health. It's a struggle to um, when you don't feel well to get out of bed and make things happen, because if you don't, who is in my job? And so um, things have shifted from having that flexibility has been a positive thing, um, and the daily dietary restrictions. You got to think about that all of the time. The going back to uh, my family and the daily um, grind of FCS is um, they finally understand now that Daddy wasn't faking it. Daddy really has an issue. It wasn't just because he didn't care or he wasn't taking um, control of things. Now that's part of it, but that's not all of it. And with the diagnosis of FCS, that again that has lifted that burden. My family's been very supportive, um, but they still had that inkling in their mind. Is he really doing this to himself? Um, is he his non-compliance really uh, just doing this to? And now that they understand FCS and they understand the science behind the diagnosis, they now have a way to talk about the disease with me. And my wife and I have had multiple conversations of, honey, I really thought that this was happening, that you were doing this on purpose, and that was not the case. Um, Now, in the very early stages, um, some of the doctors were saying you you were just eating too bad. You were eating bad foods, and it got to the point where I was like, there is no way that I can ever eat enough sausage, enough mayonnaise, enough cheese to ever get my triglycerides to this point. There's something else going on. Um, and through all of that research of my own, and having to um, deal with doctors that come into your hospital rooms calling you an alcoholic because you have pancreatitis all these times. That was just not the case. And having to deal with that was very discouraging. And one of the things why I do what I do, and offer to come and speak on behalf of the FCS community, is I do not want these people, these other patients, to ever have to go through the fiasco that I went through for those 20 years before I was diagnosed. The essentially the abuse of the medical personnel taking liberty thinking that you're an alcoholic. Now, some may, I don't know, but I know I wasn't. And so, as a matter of fact, I refuse all alcohol. I don't even take NyQuil or Listerine if it has alcohol in it. I choose not to even partake in anything like that. So that's a challenge, and I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through. And if I can talk about it and give hope and encouragement to people, that's what I choose to do. And I hope that is um, one of the things that I hope that all healthcare professionals understand is, with FCS, you can't fix us. That is one thing that I want all my doctors to understand. And one of the things when I first meet with them in the interview process for me is, are you willing to research, and are you really willing to understand FCS? And you can't fix me, and are you okay with that? Some doctors and nurses, they have a hero complex. They want to be the hero. They want to be the one to know that they fixed Scott. Well, it's just not going to happen. And so that's one thing I would tell healthcare providers, and just to understand the patient. Don't say things such as, you're just an alcoholic, that's why you have pancreatitis, or you eaten too many biscuits, that's why your triglycerides are so high. It's just not the case for everyone. Um, Socially, I think that my close friends understand what goes on, uh, and how uh, they understand that if they offer me a piece of cake and I politely turn them down, that my close friends don't say, "Oh, you can just eat one bite. Surely one bite will be okay." Well, if you think about it, one bite of uh, cake icing, cake icing is typically buttercream icing. It's made with Crisco or some other kind of lard type butter. It tastes wonderful. I love it, but I can't have one bite. And socially, under my friends saying, they've stopped saying, "Oh, surely you can have one bite," or "Come on, you can do a little bit." And so that's kind of how I explain it to them. Um, Brain fog. I don't know, in this interview, if you've noticed that sometimes I lose my my words. I can't come up with it. And I say a lot. That is brain fog. Uh, One of the things, and that's a result of extremely high triglycerides. It just clogs your brain function, and sometimes the words just don't come to you. I was talking with someone the other day and could not come up with the word that I knew the word that I wanted to say. I knew the definition of the word that I wanted to say, but the exact word would just not come out. Um, and that's changed my way of communicating um, with uh, um, there. See, it just happened. um, oh man, I had a good word too, and I can't. So the way I work around is that I was, giving sales presentations when I was working and having, and I could memorize. I memorized the entire presentation. But now, if I give a speech, if I'm talking in front of an audience, then I have to have a scripted. Use my iPad. Technology has been great for me, not to get the brain fog, and so I use my iPad and I have it scripted, word for word, what I'm supposed to say. Um, and I've got very good at reading scripts, but not sounding like I'm reading, and so that's helped. That's helped too, and so that's how things have. This brain fog though is just uh, terrible when you can't come up with the right word. You know what you want to say, but it refuses to come out. And then, like the other day when I struggled to get the word out, about 3 days later, it comes to me. Oh, there it is. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for. And a lot of times I'll text the person that I'm talking with and say, "Hey, that finally came to me. Here it is. That's the word. That's the word I was trying to say." But so that's a tough. Uh, you act like you don't know what you want to say, but you absolutely know what you want to say. It just refuses to come out. Mental health for me has been a definite roller coaster. I have had uh, multiple extremely low depression stages in my life during this 20 years of time. My wife can sense it, and she helps me through it, um, and helps me kind of manage that. I have a therapist now that I see on a regular basis to kind of help working through having a rare disease. One of the things that I encourage my FCS brothers and sisters to find is a therapist that has a um, uh, oh man, see, it just left me again. A chronic disease, so that they understand themselves some of the things that I'm going through. Um, and so that has been a game changer for me, was finding that therapist that has her own chronic disease. Um, so uh, the other mental health aspect that I choose is, and this, there again, it's out of the box thinking, is I treat food as my drug of choice. So I attend two meetings a week, one on Tuesday night and one on Thursday night, for addiction recovery, um, people with addictions. So I treat my food as my addiction and use the principles that alcoholics use to work through their alcoholism. I use for my drug addiction. It's called Celebrate Recovery, and the neat thing about Celebrate Recovery is it's not just for addictions of alcohol, or it's for all hurts, habits, and hangups. So that fits in well with me. And there's a 12-step process, and that you work the steps. And for me, that has been very helpful as far as my mental health, and it has a support group um, component with it, as I'm held accountable to my friends in the group. They text me all the time and say, "Hey, how's it going? You staying to your diet?" Oh man! And the other day, one of my buddies texted me and said, "Hey man, how's your diet coming? Are you sticking with it?" And I had to be honest with him and say, I ate a pack of peanut butter crackers. And people say, "Well, it's just a pack of crackers." Yeah, but that pack of crackers is 2 days worth of fat for me. So I have to treat food as my addiction, and that's one way I cope with the diet restrictions and the mental health aspect of the FCS. The first symptom of me not being compliant with my diet is I know mentally that I would not be compliant with my diet, and so that starts to take a toll on me too. But physically, um, I start to get lethargic. My brain fog gets worse, and I start to feel it in my hands. My knuckles and my joints start to get tight. Um, And then eventually, if I continue down that road, pancreatitis will be around the corner. Thank goodness, knock on wood, I've not had a pancreatitis attack since um, 2022, um, February of 22. So that's the last time I've had a pancreatitis attack. Thank goodness. And that's due to the infusions that I was getting. Um, Now I went to get an infusion, uh, and my doctor was like, "Scott, your numbers are so low that I ethically can't give this to you," um, which was fantastic. But my numbers were still at over 1,000. Uh, so the typical person would still be getting treatment, but for me, that was fantastic, and she was elated. Casserole, stuffing, dressing. Oh, it is all mashed potato. Oh, macaroni. Oh my goodness, all of it. So how do I deal with it? I don't go in the kitchen. That's exactly how I deal with it. My wife will get my plate and bring it to me. Typically, with Thanksgiving, especially with the turkey and fresh vegetables and whatnot, typically um, I can find enough. Um, but with um, my mom, my parents, she'll typically make something for me that no one else gets to. Um, she'll roast vegetables in the oven for me instead of cooking in butter and stuff like that. So she makes me essentially a separate meal. One of my pancreatitis times was I got out for Christmas. Another time I was in the hospital New Year, and part of it was because Thanksgiving and Christmas, eating and eating and eating, it built up. I'm in the hospital for New Year. So if I went back to when I was first uh, diagnosed or first started having health issues, I would tell myself, Scott, give yourself grace. Um, you're you are worth fighting for. Um, you have worth. Uh, this world needs me. I have something to share, and I'm willing to share it. Uh, I want to provide encouragement, Um, don't listen to the naysayers of saying, well, you're faking it. There's uh, surely you're faking it, and not let them get to me. Just to kind of shrug it off and know that uh, I have something to add to this world. One of the things that I have prayed for and asked God to heal me, and you know, I I have um, since stopped praying for that because I shouldn't be alive anyway. I shouldn't be living with triglycerides that are over 24,000. There's only 200 in the United States of us that have this, been diagnosed with this disease. So it's rare. I shouldn't really be living. But every day I wake up, I would tell myself, wow, what a great day. We're going to have a great day. And that's what I would tell myself. And just my young self, and I got very discouraged in the beginning of, gosh, something is really wrong. Well, I've had a change of mindset. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm designed just how God wanted me. Do I have some issues? Yep. Do I have some opportunities? Absolutely. But we work through those. Um, so my hope for the future of FCS is that um, there is a treatment for um, lowering triglycerides that doesn't have crazy side effects. That the diet is working for me, but for some people it doesn't work, and they can eat under 10 grams of fat a day, but still have astronomical triglyceride numbers. Um, Even at 1,000, I would like for mine to be a little lower. Um, my doctors have said that if I can keep my triglycerides under 1,000, then my reoccurrence of pancreatitis will be very slim. Um, so I still need some additional treatment, and currently, right now, there is none. I'm feeling great. I have a new outlook on life. Um, my last triglycerides blood work was 838, and which is fantastic for me. The couple of times before we saw it at 1,700, and then so most recent was 838. The time before that was 1,700. The time before that was 9,000, and that's all diet. I have been taken off of all of my medicine, which is fantastic. I was on a whole lot of medicine, and so I'm off of all of that, and diet is the key for me. Now, I will tell you that diet is not the key for everybody with FCS. And that's part of the hard issue, or the hardness of FCS, is that every person is different. Every person responds differently to different aspects of treatment. I've got a friend of mine who fat has no bearing. He can eat, he has FCS, he's been diagnosed with FCS, he's got triglyceride issues and all of the typical symptoms, but his diet has no bearing on his triglycerides. So FCS is different for everybody, which makes it so difficult in treating it. And so, but for me, I'm doing well. Again, I haven't had a pancreatitis flare up, knock on some wood, since 2022. Um, and I look forward to not having another flare up for a very, very long time. Find a group of people either online or in your area that understand rare disease and or FCS particularly. I went for 20 years without finding anyone else that was struggling with what I was struggling with. There are people out there. You are not alone. You are not an island, and you are not alone on that island. There are people that will be happy to come and join along beside of you. I'm one of them. And for FCS patients, you are not the problem. You're just not. And so just having someone to talk to and bounce ideas off and to talk about the struggles of going from loving mayonnaise and sausage to that to eating egg whites and turkey. You grieve. I grieved food, um, and I had to go through that grieving process of eating bacon and eggs and ham meat and biscuits and gravy for breakfast. And I loved it. I'm country. This is what we grew up on, what I grew up on, but it's just can't happen anymore. If I want to stay out of the hospital, this is what I have to do. I just want the new folks that have been diagnosed to know there are other people out there. We are few and far between, but we are a supportive community that will be more than happy to come alongside of you and to help you and to say, hey, it's time to go find another doctor, or wow, what's the name of your doctor? That sounds like a great doctor. So I went through many, and that's what I would hope that as newly diagnosed that you would understand most is that you are not alone.